Hello, everyone. Hope you are having an amazing time accumulating learnings here today at the BFSI CXO Summit. Now I welcome you to an exclusive BFSI CHRO session on building hybrid workplaces. First, introductions are in order, and I'm delighted to say hello and welcome the inspiring panel. Seema, Singh, CHRO and CFO, India, Post Payments Bank. Puneet, Khurana, Group Head HR, Policybazaar. Shailesh, Singh, Senior Director and Chief People Officer, Max Life Insurance. Ravi, Duvvru, CHRO, Jana Small Finance Bank. Welcome to this session, panelists. And I'm Puja, Bothra, Senior Content Lead, ETHRWorld. I'll just take a few minutes to set the context of this session. The workplace has evolved a lot since the onset of the pandemic. We are dodging between a complete remote work to partial remote working. Whether we operate in the physical space or in the virtual realm, or in a combination of physical and virtual, the change has compelled the CHROs to rethink people agenda. A lot of factors go into consideration in the people agenda, from employee well-being, convenience, productivity, to security. This panel discussion with eminent CHROs will emphasize on how they are planning their policies as the pandemic unfolds with two severe waves so far impacting work, lives, and businesses. In this first part of the session, we will focus on transformations taking place in this sector on account of digital technologies and how it is impacting the employee agenda. I would like to start with Shailesh first. Technology, along with the pandemic, has been a major disruption in recent times. It'd be great, Shailesh, if you share an overview on the factors causing a transformation in the BFSI sector.
I think the last year and a half has been truly unprecedented in every sense. I think we continue to live from month to month, from quarter to quarter, and BFSI sector is really no exception. And I come from insurance segment, and thankfully for us, we have continued to see growth in this entire period. By and large, most players have seen growth and managed to stay intact. However, that doesn't mean, I think, while on the surface we have managed growth, there's a very different kind of a challenge that this entire sector and the BFSI segments have been facing, which includes, you called out the technology transformation. I think there's a bigger challenge of uncertainty underlying everything that we are living through. And frankly, when COVID-1 happened, we thought we'll all be done with this in the next few months, and we actually almost were. And as we were about to celebrate our win, we found that there is a COVID-2, and now obviously there are conversations about COVID-3 and COVID-4, and we continue to unfold and evolve with the times. And that truly is in itself a very big challenge that the segment is facing. I think the lack of ability to predict how it's going to be in terms of business, dealings with customers, employees, hiring, connect, engagement, processes, digital and non-digital, everything seems to be in a flux and transformation right now. And I think that, to me, is perhaps the biggest underlying challenge that we all are facing. And this challenge has nuances across functions, across locations. So I don't want to use one brush to paint it all in one color, while there are some common themes, but the contours of this, the granularity of it is varying from constituency to constituency. In our case, for example, in the case of insurance, BFSI, I think the biggest challenge has been for most businesses that are touch and feel and connect with customers. That itself, I think, has been a casualty in the first few months. It's taken organizations like us to really pull up our socks, get our act together, get employees to their homes and start operating from there. I think so. The biggest hurdle was really to restore some semblance of order initially, and we were actually as a player a little ahead. We planned a little better, so we sort of closed our offices before the government made it mandatory. But even after that, we had our fair share of challenges to getting people to get used to work from home. A home in Mumbai is different from a home in Delhi in terms of size, depending on level of people, of what they can afford, they can't afford. Bangalore, smaller locations, privacy, parents, children, schooling, timing, meetings, all of that. So we were really grappling with variety of challenges there, and digital proved to be, and in hindsight came to be, as a big savior in many ways, while it was also the call of the hour. But digital's ability to simplify, I've always been personally an advocate of and a fan of. And I think, the fact that we had a robust platform, and most BFSI, companies, I think, managed to get their act together. And beginning with getting people to work from home, to beginning with how do we continue to stay connected with our customers? How do we sort of stay engaged with them, digitally? How do we deal with them, especially when they're used to a very touch and feel? In our case, for example, a lot of selling happens, across the table. You meet people, you explain the product, you have a conversation, and then they buy a product. Now, all of that has to, be done either, telephonically or using other, digital and video means, and that has not been easy. That has not been easy. It has taken us some time. It has taken customers some time, but what we have found and where we have evolved to is a much solid hybrid model today, where we also have learned a few new things, and we have now moved into a new territory where we realize that you don't have to be really working the way you worked in the past. So you can still connect with people, you can talk to them, and so have customers from the other end responded. They've been extremely agile and flexible. Their own safety, health, concerns have weighed in on their minds, and they have really played along. So today, if I look at our sales processes, if I look at our internal employee processes, right from identification of candidates to how do we hire them, the screening process, to how do we do background checks, to how do we interact with our partners, to how do we onboard them digitally, all of that process today stands digitized. It stands interconnected, from one to the other, so that there isn't, the baton doesn't fall off when it is passed from one hand to the other. These processes existed yesterday in a lesser, sophisticated form. They were not necessarily all interconnected. Today, we have interconnected all of them. So they are all interconnected. The synergies are much better. The cost is lower. The friction have come down. The gaps have reduced. And as we do that, we've also found other ways of engaging with our teams. So leadership teams, now engage in this period with employees in digitally, their families, digitally. Health has clearly become a much bigger priority, today for the for employees and for most employers, and we are a great place to work there. And we've always placed culture in the top of all that we do. Digital has beautifully been blended into that model now. For example, our employee app has become a big, powerful platform today. Almost all of our employee deliveries are served through the employee app, and it has evolved to a new level. All of them.
Yes, I agree, Shailesh, that technology has really enabled processes, whether it is HR processes or it is your sales engines. It's also changing the way consumers want to be engaged. So definitely it has really transformed, especially the BFSI sector. Now I'll move to Seema and Ravi, and I'll ask you, can you share how you helped your employees cope with transformations happening today in your organization? We could start with Seema and then move to Ravi.
Yeah. Before giving the answer, I'll just give you a very, very brief model of the bank, because we are not like a normal, usual bank where people walk in and then get the banking services. Our bank is on a model where, the rural dakyas, or maybe they are called Gramin Dak Sevaks, which are almost 300,000 in number. And people from Department of Post are the people who face the customer. So they are the ones who engage with the customer. And our employees are like, you can say they're like help desks or the help centers for the people to do the transactions for the customers seamlessly, and they handhold the Gramin Dak Sevaks and the postmen to do the work seamlessly. Now, if coming back to the pandemic time, our challenge was not only to keep our employees engaged, because employees are only 2,000 in number. but my people on the field who were doing the banking services were 300,000. So my question was how to keep them engaged and how to keep them motivated. So pandemic brought us a big challenge was, of course, we had, to train these people to become bankers from Dakias. That transformation was the biggest challenge which we had. And for this, we had a training program, which was a 30 hours training program. It was a classroom training program, which was held. But, as the bank is growing, the products are kept evolving, and especially during the pandemic, these Aadhaar-enabled payment systems had to be done. The doorstep banking was to be going because this was the bank which was formed only to give doorstep banking to the people at the last mile where there were no banks and no branches. So the bank's tagline also says, Aapka bank, aapke dwar. Aapka bank, aapke dwar means the people will come to you, you don't need to come to the bank. So the technologies were evolved, and yes, there was a fear. There was a fear of getting infested by the COVID-19. But a lot of training programs were given. We had told them how to sanitize themselves, how to even sanitize, because they were going with this micro ATM and a biometric device which needed to be sanitized after every use of the customer. But this whole process became, and this was also applauded by people across the country when Dakias went to the people. 100 crores of people were given services at the doorstep for Aadhaar-enabled system. People could not step out of the house, but they wanted money. Or maybe a migrant laborer who was stuck maybe in Punjab, had family in Bihar, could send the money to home only because somebody would come to him and take the money away and credit the account of the family member. So this was because it was being appreciated by everyone. Dakias did a wonderful job at that time. And even now, till now, I'll say. And then comes November when people need to give life certificates, especially the pensioners, the senior citizens. And then came the Jeevan Praman thing, and then the Dakia would go at the doorstep of the senior citizen to get that life certificate online. So all these things gave a lot of boost to the people when a satisfied customer would, not only appreciate, but they will also bless the Dakia who would come to their doorstep to give the services. So that was a very, very big incentive for the people. Besides the money incentive is there. But at that time, I think it was a national call to come out on the field and help the people across the country. And that people did very well.
I totally agree. I think you need the national spirit within you. You're not only an employee at that point of time when you are going to people who are sitting safely in their houses, risking your life and helping them with their financial needs. So I think after health workers, it was bankers who stood up during the lockdown stage and during the peak pandemic, and not thinking about their personal selves, but being all out to help. And in return, I'm sure they would have really created loyal customers.
Yes.
Which customer will forget that kind of a gesture? Ravi, some points from you on this?
Sure. I think, we are, again, is more or less a similar model. We are a small finance bank. So financial inclusion is the heart of our journey. And 90% interestingly, 90% of my customers are women customers. There's a small, your housemaid or your helpers or some people who open the small grocery stores, etc. And ours is also a very high contact nature of business. So necessarily you have to go and meet them. And most collections are done by cash even now, because these people, a lot of them don't yet have their smartphones, etc. So collections are done in cash. And hence there's a high contact business restricted severely by the lockdowns which were imposed. So we had to operate in these sort of restrictions. So as a bank, I would broadly divide it into three segments. One, the employees. Second, the customers. And in between connecting these both is a whole operation space. So I'll just focus in this segment on what we did on the employee front, because that's what your question was. So on the employee front, we had to overnight get into mode of a remote working space. For a bank, it's very unusual to work in this space. So what we decided about the storefronts, which were essential service, we had to operate with a minimum set of people. So they had to go to that, irrespective of the lockdown or the pandemic status, they had to open those storefronts and service the customers. Then we have the whole back office side, the operations piece, the support functions, the head officers. For a period, none of us could actually come to the office, and we had to work from home. So we had to suddenly get thousands of laptops, VPNs, thousands of VPN connections, and give them to the employees. And as a bank, I need to be very, very wary of the privacy issues. So we had to take, our IT had to step up and ensure that the security systems and privacy are addressed while doing this entire thing. But what we've done is, what we discovered is the only way to keep the employees motivated is to connect with them on an ongoing basis. So we never stopped the connect. And actually, this has proved a boon for us even now. We're continuing with the same program. What we call it as the Family Connect virtually. So when the pandemic struck, there are a number of our employees who got infected. And every single employee who was infected or impacted by the pandemic, my HR teams would talk to them on a daily basis, providing them help, hospital admissions, taking care of their family requirements. For a month, we took care of their entire grocery requirements, for example, and which was highly appreciated by the employees. And then we then progressed them to getting a best medical treatment available. We had an in-house doctor who 24/7 answering questions, treatments, etc. And we had the Family Connect, where our direction was that every senior employee in the zones, in the head office, will meet the families of the employees. And we found this to be a real event which bonded the employees. So we talked to the parents, to the siblings, and inquire about the family well-being. Do they need any help from us? Can we sort of telling them about the bank's plans and re-emphasizing and reinforcing that their ward is not going to lose a job, because one of the biggest worries was, what will happen to my job? We said, no, nothing is going to happen to your job. You are continuing to work for us. We introduced a productivity trackers which took the ground level situation into account while designing the rewards. And the greatest motivator for them has been that we promoted, we gave increments, we gave bonuses in the most severe time. So that sent a very strong message to the employees, and talking to their families again sent a very nice message to them. And continuous training, as Seema was saying, continuous training by our learning and development organization on various stuff. For example, we had to train a lot of people on the digital way of doing things, which probably would not have been my number one priority maybe 1.5 years back. But a lot of emphasis on how do we do transactions, how do we take care of security controls in the digital platform. So the whole emphasis on training. And other thing, I always keep saying, employees need Khurana. So the empathy factor was a very, very big factor for us. And we discovered that we had to listen to the employees, to their grievances, and we had to be with them. So my HR teams did a wonderful job in talking to the employees and being with the employees, that we are there for you. That sent a strong message. So that's how we managed the situation. And as I said, some of the learnings we had, it's not going to stop. We're going to continue to take this forward.
Thanks, Ravi. And it's very interesting, like the way you said Khurana. So I think, leaders did give a lot of Khurana to their employees during Corona, so as to say. Puneet, I'll just take a cue from what Ravi said, that definitely there was insecurity amidst the pandemic for livelihood. A lot of employees did fear, that there could be some factors that could lead to their losing jobs or losing salaries, or so as to say. So my question to you is that it is no secret that businesses have suffered a lot which has led to instability in the mind of employees about their future. So how in your organization are you ensuring that the workforce feels secure about their livelihood?
Sure, thanks, Puja. Well, very, very nicely, framed question, because though it sounded very nice, but that's the bitter truth of last 1.5 years, that business has suffered a lot, and this has gone from across the board, any business that might be. Uh, there had been few organizations which were able to really sustain that, on a longer time. Few organizations went ahead and deducted some part of the salary for some time, and then reversed back. What we did in Policybazaar, and you rightly said that we actually read the mind of the people. So I have about 7,500 employees working for me in sales, Policybazaar and Paisabazaar combined. And at one point, the industry was hit so bad when the lockdown one was happened that we almost thought that what would happen from tomorrow. But thanks to our IT team, thanks to the efforts of HR and IT combined, that in about 3 days' time, we were up and ready with the new technology, and people started working from home. There was not even a single day, rather, not even 1 hour of downtime we reported because of lockdown. So we started in about 3 days, we completed the transition. So probably we call it the largest workplace migration in Policybazaar and Paisabazaar that happened in 3 days of 7,500 employees from office to their workplace, and everything up and running with their VPN connection, with the kind of policies that we sell, and the interface, the website, everything. Then the biggest challenge was to really keep our employees cool and calm. Yeah, and we did not wait for something to come up. We actually went ahead and we formed a one-on-one help. We call it one-on-one help employee assistance program. That actually was a 24/7 window open for any employee. There was a toll-free number. Any employee could call that number and discuss any issue with the family, any issue, any mental problem that the person is going through, fearing losing a job, or fearing, getting affected through COVID, any family member under COVID condition, what do I do, and all those stuff. And we did not stop there. Within organization, we formed a COVID helpline, 24/7 COVID helpline, managed by HR itself, which would help you telling the beds availability in your area, God forbid if you need it, hospital beds, medicine availability in your area, again, God forbid if you require it, oxygen concentrators and everything. Again, we did not stop there. We went a step ahead. We bought oxygen concentrators for our employees, kept them in the office. It, God forbid anyone requires, just take them home, take care of your family. We are there to help. Yeah, we did that. We went ahead, and all these, like Ravi said, all the employees or employee family members who were COVID positive, we made sure that HR is in regular touch with them. We kept asking about their well-being, if they require something. And major questions that we get, or rather major things that we were asked was, can I get remdesivir, or can I get an oxygen concentrator? By our God's grace, we could help them. We can tell them that you can go there. There's a government thing; it's available. Because, as I said, because of the COVID helpline that we had, we kept updating ourselves. Government also showed some good trust in us, and one of the COVID helplines were landed in Paisabazaar. And our employees were taking care of that COVID helpline, that helpline that government started at that point in time. Our employees were actually on the receiving end of the side. So we had the updated information from government as well. Yeah. So we kept, fluctuating here and there. We kept modifying our modus operandi. What do we do now? What do we do now? Looking at the severity of the situation. But the base of everything was keeping employees in mind and their mental well-being in mind. Yeah, and we made sure. I'll tell you a very, very small gesture that our employee engagement did, and I'm proud of them. Daily in the morning, they used to send a positive quote. Yeah, daily. And believe you me, Puja, it's been 1.5 years. It's still continued, and there's not even a single quote which has been repeated.
Very interesting, Puneet. And actually, I feel crisis is a time when, leaders can show the true empathy they have for their workforce, and the workforce becomes like an extended family.
Absolutely.
And the way you protect your family is the way you protect the workforce. And that has actually given birth to psychological safety as a subject for HR and the workplace. So now we'll move to talking about the employee life cycle. Every aspect of the life cycle has witnessed transformation, from how we acquire talent to engage or invest in their career development. Shailesh, I'll come to you and ask you about how true is this talent war? I mean, how hard has it become to attract talent today in your sector, considering that, there are so many new fintech companies that has mushroomed, and the flexibility and probably these new age fintech companies that bring in their talent proposition. Do you find it difficult to actually attract talent, and how true is this tug of war in acquiring skilled talent?
Yeah, I think the war is for real, for sure. There is absolutely no doubt about it. The war is for real. After a bit of a lull that we have seen in COVID-1 and COVID-2, I think the kind of growth that's coming back and becoming visible, I think discussion is more around there is a V-shaped recovery, and we were discussing at our own leadership meeting as to there is absolutely no ambiguity, no doubt that's a V-shaped recovery. How deep the V is a matter of discussion, but for sure there is a V-shaped recovery. So it is here and knocking at our doors, number one. And with growth coming back, obviously there is a war for talent that is on. That's a reality. However, any such challenge also brings with its opportunities. I've always seen that in life and always believed. So while there are certain skill sets, particularly IT, digital, which are seeing acute paucity and a tug for skills, as you said, clearly across sectors. These are skill sets that are much in demand, BFSI and other segments. But at the same time, the fact that people can work from home, for example, the flip side of that same coin, in terms of culture, compensation, workplace environment, employee experience, those I think priorities continue to be there, and I think we all are making that effort to ensure that there is no compromise on that. For example, workplaces will need to be extremely inclusive, going forward. I think it has always been a dominant theme across sectors for the last few years. But diversity and inclusion is clearly one big theme that is emerging across for us as well. And therefore, our ability to attract millennials, attract women, ensure that we are flexible and agile enough to make people feel welcome across functions, across constituencies, locations is going to be extremely important. So the war is for real. There is no one solution to it. It's going to require tailoring and customizing different strategies for different cohorts and functions. And the good news there is this will mean more prosperity, more competition, more choices for Indian talent, which I think in some ways is a very positive thing to happen to the Indian market.
Thanks, Shailesh. Very rightly said. Ravi, from you, some points on what are your strategy to attract the best talent?
I think one is, just a broad idea is that talent, as Shailesh has said, is getting more harder in digital fintech spaces, because what originally used to be for a bank in credit or relationship or sales, now it's talent for the right kind of digital skill sets like any other fintech is. I think fortunate for us, we're based in Bangalore, so we do have a lot of IT professionals, talent pool available for us, not necessarily from banks. Couple of things. One is we do a lot of tie-ups with the fintechs, be it supply chain, be it credit analysis, etc. And we do use robotics in a big way. For example, in the pandemic, over 100 processes were bots have been introduced, and they do, including things like, AML, etc. We use robotics. So there's a lot of interesting space being developed within the bank in terms of newer technology, and right from customer side in terms of its collections, digital products. So a whole lot of happening. So this attracts people. Second, I am here for the long term, and we tell the people who we are recruiting that you're here for the long term, you're here to grow with the company. So we give ESOPs to every single employee, even if it's a secretary, it doesn't matter, but every single employee gets ESOP. And we tell them it's your story now, how you make the bank a growth story and in turn a wealth creation for you. Second is we try to build the two principles we try to build the organization on. One is, a very non-political, non-hierarchical organization with a lot of transparency around. And when I say no hierarchy, all of us, including the CEO, now sit outside. None of us have a cabin. And across the country, including the zones and the branches, no branch manager has a room. So this is just to demonstrate, look, we are with you, and you have the freedom to walk across and approach me. Created a huge, and frankly, it created a far more positive effect than what I thought it would be. So we created a very open culture. And the opportunities which a bank would give, for example, if you're in a fintech and you're, say, working on a particular product, you would be in that particular specialization for some time. But as a bank, I offer him, across rotations, across interesting things. So end of every year, I sit with all the youngsters. I would say all the youngsters I can't say because my average age in my bank is below 30 years. So I sit with some of the youngsters and then ask them what their interest is and how have they done previous year, nothing to do with their performance, but where the interest is. And we try and accommodate. Somebody says, no, I want to work in products. I've been working in credit, so I want to see that. So we give them that opportunity. So this has become a huge demonstration to others. Third, to retain the top talent, we have formed what is called as the MD and CEO club. So these are chosen by the managing director himself in terms of the top, like we have about 200 people there, where top raters and performed not just work-wise, but demonstrated the right values, etc. They are nurtured very well. For example, I mentor about 5 people myself. So each of the senior management team mentors 5-6 people, and they have conversations with them on an ongoing basis. It's very helpful. Now we are also tying up with a leading management school so that they can do some leadership programs there as part of this club. Huge emphasis on training. So that's again been very useful. And the fact that we have not, interestingly, the senior management took a pay cut. The senior management of the bank took a pay cut, but we said none of the others should take a pay cut. So this demonstrated a huge positive effect, and people were very enthused that none of the juniors had to undergo any pay cut when the senior management took the pay cut. And yes, it's an ongoing exercise. It's never ending, and but I'm happy to say that we have succeeded in retaining the talent. Not only retaining, but we're actually hiring good talent. I hire 1,500 people every month. Yeah, even now I'm hiring 1,500 people.
So how digitalized is your hiring?
It's most of it is digital, but some other stuff like the frontliners who walk into the storefronts for cash collectors, etc. They're just walk-ins. Otherwise, we use a lot of portals, and for senior management, we of course have dedicated headhunters who work in a particular space. For example, if we want to hire something in digital, a senior person had to go to a specific headhunter to get that. So we use them, but we use employee reference to a large extent. We use employees' families' references to a large extent. So in the worst of the pandemic times, we were one of the few companies who went to the business schools and recruited people. So, and we took summer trainees from business schools. So all this spread a huge amount of positivity across. And frankly, I don't see much of a challenge in getting the right talent. But in some specific areas, if I want somebody in, say, information security, a specific specialization, it will take time. But we do get.
Yes, some of the tech skills I feel in banking, probably to do with maybe clouds and all that. There is a little bit pull and push in talent. And I've had spoken to some of the bankers in HR, and they said that it is easier to teach a tech guy banking than technology to a banking guy. So getting technology skills for bankers who've not needed to use technology in the past has been a little bit difficult job in certain organizations.
It also
Seema?
depends, Puja, on the age group. So like I said, supposing you want to teach technology to a senior guy, 50 plus, may take more time. But most of our guys, as I told you, below 30, a lot of them from the management schools, they probably know technology better than banking. So it's much, much more easier.
Yes. Seema, I'll go to you. And my question to you is that you mentioned that how you were skilling Dakias and, turning them into bankers. So if you can throw some light on the upskilling programs you had for them, one. And secondly, when we talk about tech skill sets, how are you kind of helping your workforce to develop their technology skill set, which also is a huge influencing factor in talent acquisition and talent retention?
Ours is a paperless banking. So you can well imagine a person who's for 150 years as a part of tradition of the Department of Post doing paperwork for opening the accounts are now opening accounts paperless on these micro ATMs. So this is I feel proud to say when we did the training, the training was basically to change the mindset because people were very fearful of using a smartphone. Because bank has provided them with smartphones to use as micro ATMs along with the biometric device. So Dakias were very, very skeptical of using this. And even now, if I will not say that all 100% have started using, but there's been a huge transformation. So the thrust was more than theory during the training was to make them comfortable with this technology. And then when it was being demonstrative of how easy it was, the app which they are using was so friendly, that user-friendly, that they felt it was actually so easy, and how the EKYC was being done, how the accounts are being opened. It was a very seamless process, and then they felt that fear gradually got removed. And then there was an assessment also, and then there was a certification also. They hit the market only once they were certified to do that. So that whole process, took a long time for them to get accustomed to the micro ATMs and the technology, but yes, we have done it. Over the period, a lot of new products keep coming. Over the period, a lot of processes have changed. Either by the government or by the regulator, some processes have changed. So that also we need to tell them. So we have a learning management system, which each one of them can access from their mobile phones. So you can well imagine 300,000 people accessing LMS from their mobile phones, where our training content is also very simple, very, very simple. Basically on either the animated films or maybe on simulations. We do not give them the theory part of it. We want to give them more of the practical part of it. And then, as I told you, we've got around 2,000 people sitting in the branches to help them out. So the whole transformation from paper banking to paperless banking has been very, very challenging, but very encouraging. Today, on daily basis, I will have more than maybe 1 lakh Aadhaar-enabled payment systems, maybe domestic money transfers, or maybe the child enrollment system or Aadhaar updation. All of that is only technology. And this process it has been possible only because of, the technology-driven trainings, because we cannot bring them to classrooms every time.
Interesting, Seema. And I really like those animated films that you talked about. and edutainment has become very important today. Education plus entertainment. Quickly, one challenge that you saw in your, skilling strategies for the employees, just one challenge, biggest challenge.
As I told, fear to use technology was the biggest challenge, at least for the bigger workforce, which is interacting with the customers. As far as my officers are concerned, as Ravi was saying, they're all 30, 32, average age is 32 for my bank. So they are all tech savvy people. In fact, they will come and tell us, especially the seniors, no, ma'am, we can do that. And as you were saying, it is difficult to teach technology to bankers. I would say, no, today the things are very different. The bankers who are young and out of colleges, or maybe, they grasp technology very fast.
Yeah, the young ones too.
Yes, the young. So my challenge was attitude and fear. These were my two major challenges.
Yeah, it's mostly always the attitude,
Yes.
The discipline and the attitude.
Because they were doing something for past so many years. Suddenly giving them new skill set it takes time.
So, Puneet, my question to you is slightly different. So, talent has today taken the center stage in any organization, especially in your sector. And why so? Because business acquisition and meeting consumer expectations today requires sophisticated tools and augmented data. And it is talent who can work with that. You need talent to work with that data and use their presence of mind and skills to be able to acquire business, acquire consumers, and meet their expectations. So you coming from a fintech organization, how are you competing with legacy businesses to attract talent and retain talent?
We're changing the drawing board. It's not easy, Puja, to be very honest, because whatever how technology savvy we become, at the back end we still go ahead and say, it's an established brand, it's a known brand in the market. You know what? I need to work for the brand. Working in a startup, and that's what I felt a lot of heat about 5.5 years back when I joined this organization. But slowly and steadily, we got ourselves into market. We got into the skin of it. Yeah, we started giving culture, a growth culture to the people, and our people became our ambassadors. Yeah. If I tell you about my senior management, I proudly say that more than 60% of my senior management is internally grown. They were doing at a middle management kind of a role about 6 years back, 7 years back, 8 years back. My senior management is my average tenure of my senior management is about 8 to 9 years. We are about 13-year-old company. So you can understand the kind of longevity that they have been with us. They have known the business. They have cultured it. So that is one thing that we had put a lot of effort, creating a growth culture, a learning and a growth culture. So we had brilliant people who moved ahead in a new role and made sure that a line below them is ready to take on to their. Yeah. So creating a pipeline, we kind of made it a DNA to our people. And that's what really gave us that from a, key roles. We were never less of people. We had enough people to take care of our key roles. And then we kept adding roles under our umbrella. We kept expanding horizontally and vertically. And then you can see in last 5 years, from about 1,450 employees when I joined to about 10,000 people. And then, the way we have grown. Then actually took the pulse of what millennials require. What do they look for? Obviously, we kept running some surveys and we kept talking to them with the compensation. Obviously, compensation is the biggest thing for them. We actually, broke that compensation into two parts: their fixed costs, their salaries, and obviously the benefits that we give to them. And as Ravi said, some ESOPs or maybe an employee benefit, will coming in terms of group medical coverage or anything, for that matter of fact, which was very, very different for us, which is very unique in the market that we offer to our employees. And that's where we were retaining talent. And that has been working with us. Now, we are again working, because every 2 or 3 years, we make sure that we come back with something new, so that there is nothing called monotonous or monotony in the culture that we have. Yeah. So again, we have started, drilling the system here and there and trying to get something out of that manthan to give it to our employees, and we make sure that, we are still the best.
I'm conscious of the time, so we will have to close this session. Though there is so much to discuss about people agenda, we could have gone longer, but it's time to close. And in a nutshell, I can conclude that during the pandemic, the focus had been to provide essential services with sufficient attention to quality, customer experience, and risk control, all while caring for employees. In the post-pandemic era of hybrid workforce, the attention is more on providing great experiences to the workforce, putting health and psychological safety in the spotlight, and investing extensively in their skilling. With that, thank you for joining in the session. Stay tuned for the rest of the event. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Thank you.